Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Global Contact Innovation session. My name is Gabriel, Strategy Innovation Consultant and Impulse Partners, and I will be your host today for this session focused on energy and clean tech in the construction sector. I hope everyone can hear me well. So today's agenda includes a presentation from our corporate partners and VC, as well as 5 startups pitches. First, we're glad to welcome Brendan, Senior VP of Digital and Data Engineering, and Hamad, National Director of Ellisdon, one of Canada's leading companies in the construction service sector. We also have with us Talia, a General Partner at Compass, an early stage VC firm focused on solutions that accelerated digital transformation and decarbonization of the building and manufacturing industries. I also see other couple familiar faces, so hi everyone. Before introducing our speakers for today, I'd like to address a few words about our Global Contact Program. We at Impulse Partners have been dedicated to accelerating construction innovation for over a decade now. Our main goal is to speed up innovation in construction, real estate, energy, and infrastructure, and bring together the key stakeholder and players in these sectors on a global scale. To do so, we have developed a global ecosystem of entrepreneurs, tech firms, VCs, and decision makers that play a vital role in accelerating innovation, driving economic growth, and solving complex societal challenges. By bringing together these players, we seek to create an enabling environment to unleash the collective potential and hopefully have a much bigger impact. You've been invited today because we believe that your company can play an important role in the tech transition to a greener future and also have a strong impact in the construction sector. So thank you for being here. As a reminder, joining our global initiative grants you access to world-class startups through a network of 3,000 companies, access to equity benefits, world-class venture investors, as well as pilot programs to test and validate startup solutions. And like today, you will also have the opportunity to meet industry peers, share best practices, and also develop your innovation network. So this was just an overview of our activities, but if you're interested about the program, please do not hesitate to reach out to this email and we'll be happy to jump on a call and explain further. So for today's agenda, first, Brendan, Senior VP of Digital and Data Engineering at Ellisdon, and Hamad, National Director at Ellisdon, will be presenting their activities, followed by Talia, General Partner at Compass, and then 5 entrepreneurs will then be pitching their startups. Each companies will have 10 minutes total, including time for Q&A. So don't hesitate to ask your question in the chat, and I will address these questions after each presentations. I also invite you to all mute your mic during the presentation and only activate it at the end if you have any question, please. So to start off this session, I'm glad to have with us Brendan and Hamad from Ellisdon. Hi there.
Hey, Gabriel. Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for being here.
All right. So I wanted to just, myself and Hamad wanted to sort of walk you through sort of our Contech program and pilot program, as well as the accelerator program that we're partnering with Impulse on. So last year, we officially launched our construction technology pilot program. We have about 10 ongoing pilots currently running across our portfolio at Ellisdon here in Canada. And we have about another 20 in our pipeline. And building on the success of that from last year's pilots, we're looking to expand sort of on that footprint, and formally sort of launch this accelerator program and look at other startups and technology partners within the industry that can help us expand on our existing program. You want to go to the next slide? Yeah. So here's a bit of a snapshot on some of our pilots that we're actually running. And as part of that, you'll notice there very clearly that it's quite a diverse set of technology pilots, everywhere from image recognition to IoT to project management tools. And the point of this is really to get a broadened range of experiences and technology tests that we can do on our site, because as you know, one shoe doesn't fit all in the construction scenario. So we need to sort of have a look at different companies out there that we can help partner with and progress forward with. And as part of that, we're sort of looking at a broad scope of things, but there's, in the subsequent slides, you'll see there's definitely a framework that we're employing in order to do this, and we're not just randomly selecting people out of the ether. Next slide. So as part of the growth from our pilot program from last year, we've launched an accelerator program here at Elliston, and it's really the primary focus is obviously to bring efficiencies and to solve some other problems or solutions on field. But the real goal is to focus on automated data capture. A lot of these technologies are manually driven, and our focus is really around companies that can help us support this platform. So we've consulted a lot of our internal stakeholders here at Elliston, in order to find out what are the needs and what are the short and long-term goals of the business in general from a construction operations perspective. We'll be filtering through these technology startups that come through the accelerator program, and ultimately this will culminate in a 6-month pilot program across our portfolio. And we feel that this is sort of a go, no-go situation for a lot of our solutions out there that we want to implement company-wide. So as part of that, our domains of interest that we're focusing on after meeting with the stakeholders, there's 5 key domains that we're looking at. So obviously product and efficiency is sort of the low-hanging fruit. Streamlining those processes for our construction operations and bringing a little bit more automation to our VDC teams. And then on the environmental and sustainability, that's obviously going to be a big area of focus. Elliston is committed in 2030 to lower our CO2 emissions significantly. And by 2050, we believe that we're aiming for a 0 carbon emissions output on our sites. Most likely that will be mandated here in Canada anyway, federally. So this is something that we want to start working on now. The other domain is health and safety, which is a primary focus on all of our sites. So that's something that's of primary interest to our HSE group. Contracts and legals, which is a little bit less sexy in terms of the construction technology ecosystem, but something that can definitely help. Right now, there's a ton of man hours that are poured into doing these kind of things. Everything that, as you know, from the construction industry requires this group, and it's a very big overhead from a time perspective. So we're looking to gain efficiencies for that, particularly around the AEC sector. And finally, the QA QC department. So there's a lot there to unpack, and we've seen some very interesting companies that have sort of started coming through the accelerator program. But this is quite an exciting sort of area of focus for us. So once we have these startups selected through with the help of Gabriel and the Impulse team, what are the benefits really? Like, what's the so what? So for those of you on the call that are not aware, Elliston is a relatively large GC in Canada, one of the biggest across the nation, and it will really provide these startups with the market access to test and validate not only their products, and pressure test that, but also give us an opportunity to see the potential for scale. To be honest with you, with a lot of these companies, we've done, previous to Hamad launching the pilot program, we were testing myriads of different technologies, and what we found was that the ability to scale was just not there. So that's definitely one of the sort of testing grounds that we can look into in terms of the market access. The other advantage, obviously, is the 72 years of experience that Elliston has in the construction industry. We have a lot of mentoring and coaching programs from our executives to decision makers to project managers, CMs, site superintendents. So we take a very hands-on approach to our pilot program. Because we know that technology is the way forward, but we also need to put our input into it. So there's an advantage from the companies that are joining this pilot program and this accelerated program, that they are going to benefit from these services. And then I alluded to a fact a little bit earlier on that the reason why we're running 10 current pilots and we have about 20 in the pipeline is that one size doesn't fit all. So in order to test different scenarios, we may test 3 or 4 different companies within the same domain. It domain being QA/QC or health and safety or contracts and legal, because until it's really been pressure tested and expanded throughout the organization, it's hard to tell what is going to work and what's not going to work. And the flexibility is key to that program. So the ability for these companies to be able to tailor some of their technology platforms to our needs is critical for success in order to scale. So this slide is slightly updated because we've already just closed our submissions for our accelerator program. But it just gives you an inkling of what the flow is, and we're definitely going to be doing this next year. So I encourage those on this call to keep an eye out for that. I'm sure Gabriel and his team will help us with that. But really, the process is around. We've closed off submissions in July. We've had about 105 submissions so far, which is great. This will culminate in a pitch day at Elliston at our head offices. And then we will pick 1 to 5 startups that we'll look to run through Hamad's pilot program, and then obviously look to scale. So I'm going to let Hamad sort of jump in here just for a minute, just to give his input. But that's really culminating. I don't know. I went through this very quickly, but this is our pilot program and our goal for the accelerator. So Hamad, over to you if you've got anything to add on that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Brandon. So again, like Brandon mentioned, the pilot program is something we've been, evolving throughout Elliston's experience with technology. And now we just want to make sure that the partners and the kind of global reach that we have with Impulse, we're also putting the word out to this network that please do reach out to Brandon or myself. And also next year, keep your eyes out for the next accelerator that we're going to be setting up if you have any partners that you think should apply. Yeah, thanks, Brendan.
So I don't know, Gabriel, if it's open to any questions or we're moving on.
Yeah, we have time for a few questions. Thank you so much, you guys, for the presentation program. Does anybody have any questions for Brendan and Hamad? No, we can just move forward, and we will have more time at the end of the presentations for Q&A as well. Thanks again. Now presenting Compass, we have Talia. I'm not sure if Talia is with us. I think she couldn't join us today. Just checking real quick if she was able to join. Fortunately not. So we'll just move to the startups presentation right away. So let's start the presentation with Sealant from Madaster, an online registry for materials, allowing users across the construction value chain to gain insights into specific materials properties.
Thank you, Gabriel. Is it, hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yes, good, thanks. Is it okay that I will share my own screen?
Yes, please take over, yeah.
Thanks. That's the wrong one. So I think my screen is now visible. Please, if it's there's anything wrong, just say it. And well, first of all, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about Madaster today. So with a really big group of many individuals with really their own expertise, but there's just one thing particularly that we have in common, one major thing, and that's we all live on this beautiful earth that needs our help in the climate crises like we have now. So I always start my presentations with this slide because this is the way we use to contribute to the circular economy. We regard the Earth as a closed system from which there will be no waste. So we believe there is no waste. Waste is material without an identity. So there are limited editions everywhere. So we can't grow steel. So really any material is just a limited edition. registering these elements, buildings, infrastructure, objects whatsoever, will gain information, and we can use that for efficient reuse in the future, and use buildings and like bridges and all that kind of stuff as material reservoirs and material shops where we can just take some things that are used but are just perfectly fine for reuse. And that's like really the way we see the circular economy. And it is not really a trend, which it used to be, but it's really irreversible. So we see that in the urgency of it. So I think everyone is familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, really, there are many initiatives right now regarding testing and regulation that are now indispensable. So the goals are becoming more clear, and more pragmatic. So take BREEAM or EU taxonomy, for example. So the EU taxonomy, every like big company needs to report on their emissions and impacts, also like for complying. So really the urgency of circular construction is therefore big, and also time is a little bit running out, as you can see in the next slide. So we have a carbon budget for like 1.5 degree. So we have 400 gigatons worldwide. 909 megatons is for the Netherlands, and particularly the building sector for us, we have 100 megatons. It's just calculated on the number of inhabitants that are living in Holland. And if we don't do anything in our building processes, we will exceed our carbon budget in 2027. So you can imagine there's quite a lot of work needed to stay under our budget. And like the example you see here is really an example for the Netherlands, but I'm pretty sure that this plays around the whole world. So that's where we come in as Madester, and we provide a tool which gain insights such as embodied carbon. And we started Madester with like a material passport only, but we're growing more and more as an instrument in order to track and gain information to help businesses for the circular economy. So we're both a register and an instrument, and like materials and products are recorded in order to substantially say something about them, and it generates insights on like these KPIs such as CO2 emissions and also circularity. We can say something about detachability if that's needed for something. And we believe that if you are registering your whole buildings or your whole objects, that's like a good way to know what you have and know what you can really reuse out of that. So in short, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the platform. So first of all, we have an input, and the input is can be an Excel, but it can also be a BIM model, and it can range from buildings to infrastructure objects. Is really, we can load anything into Madester if it's just an IFC model or it is an Excel. And what the platform does, it's connecting databases with environmental data and connects it to the IFC. And what you can do with that is gain insights and export, for example, material passports. You can export insights for KPIs such as circularity, embodied carbon, financial validation. It's really like the more input you put into the platform, into the IFC model, the nicer and the more valuable information will roll out of the platform. And everything, if you do it right, is fully automatic and scalable. There's also, you can connect external apps such as urban mining, which we have like in an area register. So if the building is no longer needed, a building owner can say, okay, I want to like put my whole building into a product marketplace, and then people can really buy stuff out of that building. So in that case, we aren't demolishing things, we are just dismantling and reusing buildings, which we think is quite a big thing in the circular economy. So what's in there for you then? So I know it's a pretty text intensive slide, so you are getting the slides, but in short, 3 things. Environmental, like the climate crisis forces the construction sector to go circular. Insights generated within Madester allow customers to make better choices of it. The second one, compliance. Lack of required data jeopardizes compliance with regulations and certifications. Madastra offers insights into data required for relevant resistance and certifications. And Madastra really likes to follow local guidelines. So it's really like Madastra can be implemented everywhere around the world. So there's no restrictions regarding like requirements of governments or something. And finally, we have construction. Financially, construction must make the transition to circularity to preserve capital, limit cost increases, and prevent stranded assets. So digitally stored documentation really leads to value retention and can lead to an increase of the value of objects. So like in the platform, when you have loaded in an IFC, we can guide performances within 3D. So in front of you, we have a heat map from a building, and it's really like that simple that the green objects are maybe more circular or are having less mass, and the red ones are like becoming less circular or have a high embodied carbon. And in that way, you can really guide the performance and really use it within your company to steer on like these KPIs. Also, we can report and certify with like the material passport. So in the Netherlands, it's already the case that this results in an extra BREEAM credit. And I can imagine that this also exists within other countries. So material passports can be generated in a lot of options. So just a management summary. So really just a simple one, but also a more in-depth technical summary if that's needed. And we can also benchmark within the platform. So you can really benchmark within your company. And what that does is it really just is as simple as it compares building A to building B and says, okay, building A is more circular, but building B has less math. And so that in that way, you can really steer on the KPIs within your company. So a couple of use cases. When you get the slides, you can click on it and you can just really like see where Madastra is being used and what that does within the companies that are using it. So it's really great that we are with so many people today because changing the way we work in order to stimulate the circular economy is something we need to do together. We recognize this, and therefore we as Madastra work with a partner ecosystem. We work with the frontrunners of the circular economy all across Europe, and we are aiming at a worldwide partner network. So we're really happy to help you when we can. So what's next? As we would say, take full material responsibility. I'd like to thank you for your attention. Please feel free to contact us, and I'm happy to answer your questions when they are. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your presentation. It's very interesting. Does anyone have questions at this moment? You can just type them right away in the chat, or you can address them later. You can just unmute yourself. All right, thanks again, Dylan.
Thank you.
Coming up next, we have Jillian, who will now be presenting M2 Energy and energy storage systems in urban construction sites with the aim to facilitate the electrification of work sites. Is Jillian with us today?
I'm here, yeah. Nice to meet you.
Hi,
so
nice to see you.
I'm going to put my camera on briefly, but because of the lighting in this room, there's a light ray coming straight through me. So I'm saying hi to everyone, and then I'll switch my camera off.
Sweet.
And then, so yeah, okay, double check. Perfect. All right. Very nice to meet everyone. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm very excited about talking again to Impulse Partners and your network. My name's Julian. I'm the COO of M2 Energy. I'm based out of London. So just to give you a little bit of history on the company, we were founded in 2015 in Hong Kong by engineers building lithium-ion battery technology. We really focused our company more in 2017 when we were approached by a construction company in Hong Kong who said, look, can you do anything about all the diesel generators that we use on our construction sites? Can you replace them with batteries? At that point, our CEO worked together very closely with the construction company, visited a lot of sites and found out that you could replace diesel generators with lithium-ion batteries. And in the process, not only could it power a lot of the equipment that was on site, it could remove a lot of the problems that diesel generators have, and it could also do that at a cost that was often cheaper than what the diesel generators were. And so from that point forward, we focused our company on a vision of an emission-free future for construction. So reducing emissions in the construction industry, and since then we've scaled across 5 different countries now, and really kind of made a lot of difference in terms of impact, environmental impact. But along the way, we have realized that the technology that we've developed is usable across multiple different industries. And so we've recently refocused our vision on called Clean Energy Delivered. And the idea here is that we are aiming to replace or reduce diesel anywhere where a mobile diesel generator is being used, be that in events, in film and TV, in mining, all these areas. And so we are focused on basically eliminating or reducing the use of diesel there. But going back to looking at construction too, and I can explain a little bit more about how our product works. What we realized when we started looking at these construction sites is either they had no power at all, or they did not have enough power to power all of the equipment on site, which was often thousands of amps. And so what the site would do is use diesel generators. If they had a small grid connection, they would use that to power lights or the site office, and then a lot of the larger equipment was powered by diesel generators. But because those diesel generators, that equipment wasn't being used all the time, it was actually a very inefficient way of powering it. Diesel generators have a lot of issues. They're not technology that anyone particularly enjoys using. They're noisy, both for the people on site, the workers on site, and also the local community. And that noise actually can harm workers' hearing over long periods. They have a lot of downtime. They're due to refueling, maintenance. They break frequently. Some of the newer generators in the Euro 5 actually break fairly frequently, leading to a lot of downtime on site. And you have to bring in and out diesel to the construction site. Diesel itself is a fire hazard if there's any flame nearby it. And so there's a lot of management that needs to go into that and risk. A lot of the generators out there have no data from them. They're not internet connected. They don't give back information on the operational parameters, on the maintenance or anything like that. But most importantly, they have a very high carbon footprint, much higher than a car. I think it's like 200 times a car, because they're on all the time, all day, every day. And they emit a lot of diesel fumes, which is obviously harmful for both the workers and also the local community around the site. So we worked together with this construction company in Hong Kong to build the Entertainer, energy container, 2 words combined, which is the first cloud-connected energy storage system specifically designed for construction sites. So when I say specifically designed, this includes the mobility of the unit, being able to move around, the safety of the unit, extra safety parameters and systems in place, which were needed in a very mobile and flexible work site. The ability to deploy it very quickly, and to then decommission it very quickly. All the software systems are designed for the construction industry, and so we made it as operationally easy to use as possible, which has been a great success. So the way it works in reality is that if you look at a lot of the generators that are deployed in construction, they're often oversized for what they do. So the reason for this is that construction equipment, like things like a crane or a hoist, when it's lifting a crane, for example, it needs a very high power just at the point of lift. But most of the time, about 90–95% of the time, it doesn't need any energy at all. And so these generators, or needs a very small amount of energy, these generators are sized for that peak, and then the rest of the time they just give out a tiny level of power, which is very inefficient. What you can do with a battery is you can power it on a much smaller connection, fill up the energy within the battery, and the battery handles the peak at the other end. And what this means is you don't have all this idling time from a diesel generator where it's burning fuel and creating emissions and all those kind of things. So just to give an example, some of the large cranes need about 400 amp of power or 500 amp of power at the point that they're lifting. We can power that on a 20 amp or 30 amp feed. So you're reducing your power requirements really, really significantly, which allows you to either use a smaller connection, which is available nearby, or a very small diesel generator running very efficiently, which reduces the diesel usage. And this allows for a very big impact. Wait a minute, that video wasn't working earlier. Anyway, a quick look inside our unit. So the benefits, as I mentioned, are actually in the UK, it's a 90% carbon reduction compared to diesel generators. Completely eliminate the air quality pollutants at site. You eliminate the safety risk associated with diesel spillage and fire. And we're over 30 times quieter than an equivalent diesel generator, which not only is better for the local community and the workers, but also often allows sites to work longer hours than they otherwise would. We also are cost effective in many cases in the sense that we're actually cheaper than the generator plus diesel. The battery plus electricity is cheaper than the diesel rental plus the diesel itself. We're connected from the ground up. We're designed to be a connected device. And so that allows us to do remote operation maintenance work, gives a lot of data back to the construction sites, and basically and then allows us to access the unit remotely when we need to. And finally, we much more reliable than generators. I think generators, we've heard from customers, have about 300 hours per year, which is lost due to refueling and servicing. We recommend a biannual visit from a maintenance point of view, but the rest of the time we're very reliable. So just to give you an example site, this is a site in London, very large site with Lang O'Rourke. We've deployed 3 units there, powering some of the largest cranes in the UK. Those cranes would usually require, I think, 400 or 500 amps of power. They're running on 16 amp each. So the site had some power, just not enough for the cranes. And so they could completely eliminate the generators. They actually saved a lot of space as well, because they had the generator, the tank, and another device as well to try and reduce the generator need. And so they saved a lot of space. So almost 200 tons a year of carbon we're saving. It's almost 1,000 cars in air pollution. Operating costs are much lower, and very positive feedback from the site on reducing their workload, which with the generators was pretty high. So in terms of our track record, we have over 200 units delivered now, and they've operated for 2.2 million hours across 170 projects. We have 60 customers across 5 regions now. We have units operational in Australia, UK, Hong Kong, and Singapore, with units on their way to the UAE now as well. We have we've mitigated 29,000 tons of carbon up to this point, and we have reduced, with basically the equivalent of removing 60,000 cars from the road in terms of the air pollution impact as well. This is the platform that I was mentioning. So one of the great things about our product is it improves over time, because we have a constantly updating software platform. That software platform today offers real-time operational data on what the unit's doing, the remote maintenance capabilities that we look at, but also the customer looks at, and can go back historically to see what's happened to the unit. Carbon reduction information, energy usage information, which is very good, useful for sustainability teams to see kind of like what impact these products are having on their carbon emissions. And monthly reporting, so you get full reports on kind of everything that's happening that happened over the last month, and increasing amount of functionalities coming every month. As mentioned, we've now broadened our technology. So having learned how to build a reliable energy storage system and usable in a construction site, we now have expanded to other areas. So the original products were the Entertainer M and L, the ones in the middle. We've recently released the Entertainer L Plus. So just to explain this graph, you can build your energy storage system to have high power, high energy, low energy. So our initial products were kind of medium energy and high power. The Entertainer L Plus is a higher energy capacity and higher power. And we also have next year the Silo coming, which is lower energy and lower power. And that's usable in kind of more sort of mobile cases, maintenance cases, things where you don't have such high power needs. And so our lineup is diversifying. To give an example of what that looks like in terms of use cases, the smaller unit might be used in the small site office setup, our larger units in larger site offices, smaller unit for small cranes. Now we're looking at concrete pumps, so we can do everything from small to large concrete pumps, small to large welding sets. The smaller units will be very good in terms of maintenance. So we're looking at railway maintenance, road maintenance, all these kind of maintenance projects where you need power or energy for a certain amount of time. Concrete pumps, and then electric vehicle charging, particularly in things like construction sites where you need to kind of deploy it quite quickly. And that might be for AC charging or DC charging. So we're covering a much wider use case. So thank you very much. Super excited to be here and really happy to take any questions or to be contacted after this conversation. We are expanding globally now. Well, we already have, but we're expanding further afield. So happy to talk to anyone who wants to find out more. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julian, for your presentation. Oh, I see a couple questions. Can go ahead.
Thank you for this presentation. My name is Yogev Katsir from Israel. Two quick questions. First, if I understand correctly, you have also the ambition to supply your devices to off-grid sites, and just to understand what are your plans on that. And the second question was, what is the favorite feature or value that people in the field are responding to?
Yeah, thank you very much. So for off-grid setups, we will take any power source. The power of what the battery does is to reduce the amount of power needed, and to be able to store energy. So what that means is in an off-grid environment, like the most basic and simple example today is just to downsize a diesel generator. So diesel generators are almost always oversized. And often used for, like, they sometimes have during the day it might be that they need high power, during the night it might be low power, but you're always using the same generator. So a battery can make that a much more efficient process. But increasingly we're seeing needs for things like solar and battery together, often solar, diesel generator and battery all together, so you can ensure that if you don't run out of power energy at any one point. So there's more and more like interesting setups happening in that area in terms of off-grid. In the future may even be hydrogen, right? Because hydrogen generators are great, but they don't necessarily handle peaks so well. So you might be able to downsize a hydrogen generator, charge a battery, and let the battery handle the front end. So there's all these technologies we work very well with and complement. In terms of the value of people in the field, the funny thing is when we very first started deploying this product, we would always be championed by the innovation team or the sustainability team, and they would say to a site, oh, you've got to use this, and the site were like, well, we like diesel because we know it and it's not going to break, and and then it was kind of like forced upon them. What happens actually very quickly, what we've found, is it switches round, whereby the site people, once they start using our technology, they realize it's less work than a generator and it breaks down less frequently, and they get all this data they didn't have before, which they didn't even know was useful. And then at that point, they start championing us on their future sites. So, in construction, often you'll get someone working on one site or with one company, who then moves to another company or moves to another site. And then they want to use us because the operational overhead for them is much, much less with our product. And that's been a really nice realization for us, in a good way, that our product spreads by word of mouth.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is John. Thanks for the presentation. Just two quick questions. One, is there a reason why you're not in the North American market as of yet?
Yes, we're a Hong Kong company, and we've kind of been, I guess, picking the markets we move into now. We are going to be moving into the North American market this year. So very happy to talk to anyone in the North American market at this point, because that's coming quite soon. But obviously, it's a very large market. We wanted to make sure that we were ready to move in, but now we're at the point that we're ready. So yeah, very happy to talk about that.
Okay, so it's part of your plan to get in, or it's in the works for you to start entering.
People are being hired right now.
Okay. The second question, I might have missed this at the beginning, is at the beginning of your presentation maybe, but where's most of your kind of the parts and manufacturing part of this is being done by your, like, with the companies doing it, or you're outsourcing a lot of the kind of the manufacturing of these pods, I guess, or?
Yeah, fair question. So we see ourselves as a product company. So we're designing and engineering products for an end use case. So we're not trying to build a battery that does everything for all people. We are over 60% of our team are product and engineering people. Of course, we do buy in parts. We don't make inverters ourselves or anything like that. Or fire suppression systems. So we select and we buy in the parts and do the design and sell things ourselves. The assembly centers are in Hong Kong and in Thailand. And then we also build up software ourselves. So the team is so we build the complete product. We're not an integrator. We don't integrate other people's software and so on into it. We design the product ourselves. So yeah, does that explain it?
Yeah, actually, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, John, for your question, and thank you, Jillian, for your presentation. We'll have some more time at the end if anyone has have more questions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Moving forward, I'm happy to welcome Jonathan from Fion, a wireless technology that provides power and data over distance. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Gabrielle. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, hear you well. You can go ahead and share your screen if you'd like.
Fantastic. Okay. Just check, visible to everyone, I assume, Gabrielle?
All good.
Excellent. All right. Imagine hassle-free electricity for the job site. Only plugging in a single device per floor instead of hundreds, keeping a site operational around the clock without the need for moving power cables, lighting fixtures, or electrical equipment from where they are charged or being used to their location of use. And finally, going home with your phone as charged as when you first came in. I'm John Nidell. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fion Technologies, and we've developed a wireless charging platform to make this dream a reality. Fion's path to wireless power delivery starts with a singular vision: simplify and modernize the built world through the reduction of electrical infrastructure and deliver true mobility to electrical devices across a multitude of applications. The future of power distribution is seamless, ubiquitous, and invisible. Introducing the Fion One solution, the only over-the-air wireless charging platform capable of combining safe and scalable multi-watt power delivery, covering a massive charging volume and defining a new standard for mobility. The modern job site contains kilometers of electrical cable, hundreds of sockets, electrical installation that requires hundreds of hours of labor. Fixed cabling runs counter to the space flexibility and operational efficiency, both of which are near required in today's built environment. And with the majority of job site workers using electrical devices reliant upon them, charging currently requires a conscious effort during lulls in construction work. The Fion One platform enables daily efficiency in equipment access and mobility improvements that scale with the size of the project. Through light-based power transfer, the system scales up or down the charging power depending on the device and its requirements. With near hemispherical coverage, omnidirectional charging covers a massive floor space. And finally, the platform includes secure two-way communication between dedicated Fion receiver and transmitter for charging diagnostics, device tracking, job site applications, with access to data that no one else has. The first version we're releasing this year is just the beginning. The platform evolving with the next generation delivering 4 times the power, to multiple receivers at double the distance without compromising safety or efficiency. And what's a lower power system today will scale up to higher power delivery systems with following our second generation platform. Fine's technology delivers more power over distance than any other company in the wireless charging space. What's more is, unlike others, there is zero loss through the air, meaning that the power delivered at 1 meter is equivalent to the power at 10. The scalability and efficiency of our solution has near limitless applications. No longer are we reliant on small IoT devices for wireless charging, but we can power industrial sensors, personal electronics, robotics, medical devices, construction site equipment. Our platform is a singular solution for the majority of end user devices, simplifying the installation and use of wireless chargers. One of the challenges that sensor OEMs will face is the trade-off between wireless reporting frequency, how often they transmit the data, and the battery life. The relationship is quite simple. The higher the reporting frequency, the shorter the battery life. On a construction site or industrial environment, near real-time measurement can be critical to safe and efficient operation. In one of our pilot cases, Fine plans to charge worksite cameras responsible for converting analog measurements into digital data. Crucially, the reporting frequency improves nearly 500x with Fine's wireless charging platform, charging cameras seamlessly and without placement restrictions. Our go-to-market strategy includes two major phases. In phase one, we go direct, integrating transmitters and receivers into GC projects and commercial real estate, establishing the wireless charging enabled infrastructure of the future. In phase two, the integrated infrastructure is our technical and commercial validation to win the OEMs for direct product integration. This is our end goal, is to become part of the product instead of an additional add-on. We see, for example, the iPhone 20 with an integrated Fine receiver and facility lighting of the future with an integrated transmitter, creating a wireless power network behind the hardware. As an enabling technology, Fine's platform is deeply applicable to a wide range of public and residential infrastructure, similar to the near ubiquitous use of Wi-Fi today. Over 70 billion square feet of existing commercial real estate in the US alone, we're a part of a wave of intelligent infrastructure innovation through services and the integration of IoT devices. Yet, with the proliferation of IoT hardware, it necessitates a sustainable and efficient way to power devices. In short, huge commercial footprint, billions of IoT, and a total addressable market for Fine that's massive. We're just getting started, and the anticipation is building for Fine's launch across commercial and industrial projects, supported by significant inbound interest. With a small team of 7, we really don't have any dedicated BD folks, and so all of our pilot opportunities have come from outside in. We are integrating transmitters and receiver technology for consumer and industrial applications to deliver power as a service, coupling unprecedented power delivery with newly accessible data relevant to energy and operational efficiency. For builders and building owners, there couldn't be a better time to integrate wireless charging into portfolio projects and facilities. Qi-based charging, which you see in cell phones today, has quote-unquote broken the ice for what is considered near-field charging. But with an increasing footprint amongst consumer industrial products, Fine's scalable and powerful long-range charging solution can satisfy the mobility and power requirements for far more applications. It's a catalyst for adoption of wireless charging over the air. The company is implementing what Nikola Tesla started over 100 years in the making, created by a team with deep tech backgrounds and a crazy appetite for challenges. As a quick demonstration, let's see this charging in action.
The Fine One platform is comprised of 2 hardware components, the transmitter and the receiver. Let's see the wireless charging operations of this truly revolutionary technology. The platform is capable of time-sharing wireless charging across multiple receivers. The app provides diagnostic information on the charging process. In this video, each app is running on a different phone, and the phone on the right initially charging at 1 watt. As the safety system activates and stops charging, the other phone begins to charge. The amount of power delivered is equivalent, regardless of the distance, as there's no energy lost over the air. When an interruption in the line of sight between the receiver and transmitter, the safety system stops the charging until the line of sight is reestablished, at which point the charging restarts. The platform is capable of tracking the receiver, initially stop charging to relocate each receiver movement. The power is delivered directly to the receiver, regardless of angle and distance. In this view, we see from behind the transmitter and above the tabletop. The charging begins at 3 meters. The current technology is capable of charging out to 4.6 meters, with future range and power improvements in development.
We hope that you're excited about the wire-free future as we are, and we have some ways to collaborate. To get to know the tech, we'd welcome people to reach out for POC and direct product integration opportunities. And as the team kicks off initial pilots and POCs in Japan and in the US, we are currently fundraising to scale beyond our POC phase and into production, where we look for manufacturing and product distribution partnerships. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jonathan. Does anyone have any question for Jonathan here? Yes, I think we have Dennis.
Yeah. Hi, thanks, Jonathan. It's very incredible. But I want to know, does it really works? And how long does it take to charge an iPhone, for example, compared to a regular cable? And also, what is the power loss compared to a simple way to do that?
Yeah, answering those three questions in order. So demonstration platforms available in person virtually to show that it really works. And we're going to be deploying kits for transmitters and receivers shortly to OEMs and corporate partners that we've received requests from. So yes, I can verify that it really does work, as shown in the video. The second part, as far as how long it takes to charge, say, a mobile phone, there's a lot of dependencies to that answer. What's the phone doing, for example, the different subsystems that are being used, antenna operations. But just to give a simple example, say a phone idling from 0 to 100% with our current system charges effectively at the same rate that a 5-watt charger would now. So that's 0 to 80% at, say, about an hour and 15 minutes, and then 80% to 100%, which is the trickle charge phase of lithium-ion battery technology over the course of the next 2 hours. So, end to end, probably about 3 hours for a mobile phone with the current device at 5 watts, and then cut that nearly in half for the 20-watt version. And then as far as the third question, I believe that the efficiency, the overall end-to-end efficiency, is we're looking at touching up close to a 45% end-to-end. So you can, take an easy 10-watt example and see that there's 5.5 watts lost in total over that process, compared to, say, other wireless charging technologies. We're about an order of magnitude better at that, but certainly we're not as efficient as a plug. And so what we have challenged ourselves and the team with is increasing that efficiency beyond 50%, which we will be doing for that 20-watt version of the platform.
Good to know. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yep. Gabrielle, I believe you're muted.
Thanks. Appreciate that. To say thank you for your presentation. If we don't have any other question, we'll just move forwards and we can come back to it later. Thanks. Moving on now, we have Dror presenting us Thermothera, a low-cost intelligent wall that controls temperature and humidity variations in building. Hi, Dror.
Hi. Maybe I share?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great, sorry. So my name is Dror. I'm Thermothera CEO, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to present to you our technology. In the same way we have learned how to harvest wind energy and solar energy, Thermothera have learned how to harvest the energy that lays in humidity fluctuations and to use it for heating and cooling of buildings. We are regarding the negative effect of using air conditioning or other way of heating. One of them is the high energy cost. The other is the building responsibility for CO2. And on top of that, we are dealing with the indoor air pollution. For heating, we can save 50 to 80% of the expenses, and for cooling, up to 100%. This reduced dramatically the carbon footprint of buildings. On the health aspect, our technology is dealing with 5 different aspects of our comfort level, between humidity levels, radiative temperature, and air movement, and even fresh air. So, how does it work? We are using the absorption properties of construction material, such as bricks or insulation, and turning those material into absorption reservoir. When we extract water from that reservoir, we get evaporative cooling, and when we absorb it back, we get radiative heating. We are using air paths, such as holes in the bricks or air gaps, to move ambient air in and out from the construction material by using our IoT ventilation units. Then we can control if there will be heating or cooling, or preparing for the next needed cooling, for example. On the right, we see construction that we build in Ben Gurion University, a university located in the Israeli desert, where we compare this construction to reference construction that the university is usually using. So in the next slide, we are going to see some of the results. On the yellow line, we see the ambient temperature reaching almost 36 degrees. The reference building got to 32 degrees. And Thermoterra construction, once hitting 25 degrees, started evaporative cooling, thereby reducing the temperature and keeping it comfort all day long. To understand more how it's happened, we can look at the previous night. During the night, relative humidity goes up, as many times happens with relative humidity. Then this is the perfect time for our system to harvest this water into the reservoir. After a few hours, those water evaporate exactly like our skin is sweating. And this is how we get to these incredible results. On this graph, we see few days. When we set our thermostat to 24 degrees, keeping the building comfort all day, or all of these days, where our construction is only 19 centimeters compared to the reference, which is actually thicker. So our technology can do that with a thinner wall, giving value for the contractor and developer as well, as we will further see. So there are many companies trying to solve the negative effect of air conditioning. Some are using smart thermostat as Nest. Others are using evaporative cooling or photovoltaic to make their green electricity production. Others are using heat recovery ventilation. But there is no company that actually doing all of it with a cost-effective manner and a minimum carbon footprint. In our business model, we are giving instruction for our construction partners, to make the necessary adjustment, thereby having Thermoterra-ready walls on the market. Then we can sell directly our special design IoT ventilation unit and service to the customer. Our partners are not only gaining easier compliance with regulation, providing premium building to the customer, but they can also save directly on their expenses. On the following example, we can see that the constructor can gain 10 to 20 euro per meter just by making the wall 20 centimeters instead of 30 centimeters. And the building owner will have his payback time in only 26 months. We are talking about the green building material market, which is a huge market with more than 700 billion a year. And our first market, our entry market, is the natural fiber insulation market, which is 5 billion. This market is both carbon conscious and health conscious, best fitted for our early adapters. We already got engaged with few construction partners and material manufacturer partners, such as Steico, which we were using their material in the previous example that you saw. Our next market is the building retrofit market. It's a huge renovation wave in Europe and all over the world. Other markets are the building integrated photovoltaic market, where we can give value not only by cooling the envelope, but also by cooling the PV themselves, thereby increasing their electric production. We're intending to work on the double skin facade market and the acoustic tile markets. We already got our first customer, Elot municipality. We are now finalizing the last agreements. And we are planning to make our scale up of our entry market in 2026, hoping to get to the break-even point in 2027. Our company was founded after winning a grant from the Israeli Ministry of Energy. We have 3 patents. The first was already granted. We validate our technology with TransSolar, a thermal simulation company, a German one, very prestige. We won different competition and grant and managed to raise more than €500,000 from private and public funds. In our team, we have 2 PhD in physics, Jeremy and Jonathan. We have Noah Milan, our business developer, who was leading successful Israeli startups such as Electrion. We have Yael, an expert for policy, and me on the team. I will be glad for more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dror, for your presentation. Does anyone have a question at the moment? All right, we can always go back up. We have someone, we have Dennis and Guillaume. I don't know which one was first.
Guillaume, you can start.
Yeah, no, this is thanks for the presentation. This is very interesting, very surprising, in fact, technology that you're presenting. So just to understand it clearly better, you're using the humidity inside the wall, so using the wall as the reservoir for humidity, and then you're essentially creating, like, cooling the surface temperature of the wall, thus contributing to the indoor air conditioning. Is that correct?
Well, thank you for this question. I mean, there is only minimum amount of information you can give in presentation, but actually our system can do the next magic. It can separate between cooling and adding humidity. So after having the interaction between the dry and hot air and our saturated reservoir, the system can decide if either to make the colder air enter into the building, or as you suggested, just cool the surface area of the walls. That will be according to different parameters, such we don't want to increase humidity too much, but we can do that if it's needed. So this is why I was mentioning our technology can control both temperature, humidity, radiative temperature, and fresh air, all 5 aspects of our well-being. I don't hear you.
You're on mute. Gil.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. As a follow-up question, maybe before Denis goes, do you does it work in cold climate, like where there's a potential concerns around condensation, managing humidity inside the wall cavity?
That's what
Yeah.
my question also. How will that work in Canadian conditions when we have almost half of the year just winter and cold?
Yeah, so maybe I can divide it into two questions. One is cold temperature, and the other one is a condensation. So our technology is working much better in hot regions. So we can get to 100% of the cooling needs. But for heating, it's not so. There are some thermodynamic limits for that. So we can get from 50 to 80% of the heating needed, having a different strategy applied. I mean, we wish we could get also to 100, but there are some theoretical thermodynamic limits. Regarding the question about humidity, this is a very important question. Molds and condensation problems are occurring where there are fresh water. Now, absorption of water on a surface area is something totally different. There is just one layer of water. I'm sorry if I'm getting too technical, but this phenomena involve in a chemical bonding between the water and the material. Actually, when you are evaporating, you get higher energy because it's not only the evaporation energy of making liquid into gas, but it's also disconnecting the chemical bonding between the water and the material. So those water are not biologically active. This is one aspect of that, but the other aspect that actually our technology can solve condensation problem that would have happened anyway, like in windows or other places where there are air gaps, where there are thermal connections. So since we can control both humidity and temperature, and since we are always monitoring those parameters in the house, we can make the system prevent it to occur. And then we can solve another major problem of buildings.
Thanks, Guillaume, for your question, and Joy for your answer. So moving on now, we have one more startup at the end. We can always go back for more questions if anyone have more questions. Our last startups for today is Craftblock, a system that turns hydrogen into powder for easy bag storage and transport for use in off-grid applications. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Gabriel. I think you made a wrong announcement. We are not dealing with hydrogen. I think this was a mix-up. We have a multifunctional heat storage system, which I would like to introduce, and I will share my presentation.
Please do so. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. I was just wondering a bit, but so I'm in the right presentation. You can see the presentation?
Yes, can see your screen.
Okay, good. So yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for giving us the opportunity to introduce our technology and its application. My name is Christian Kissling. I'm heading sales and business development within Craftblock. Craftblock is a company founded in 2014 with its first reference and pilot plant up and running in 2019. In 2022, we signed commercial contracts with PepsiCo and Tata Steel. We are a company about 30 people for the moment and are ready for growing in order to cope with the decarbonization task for decarbonization of process heat, which is the main purpose of our storage system. So as you can see on that slide, we have a very multifunctional storage system. You see our storage solution in the middle, which either can be charged by waste heat from industrial applications or also can be charged via electricity side in order to tap and store the energy for related downstream application in the district heating, quarter solutions, integration into power business, as well as serving with process heat, either being just hot air, being steam, process steam, or heating up of thermal oil. A unique selling point of our storage system is that we do have a modular, scalable storage system built out of 20-foot containers. As you can see in the middle of the picture, we can take temperatures from 350 degrees Celsius upwards up to 1,300 degrees. And we can store the energy several hours up to 2 weeks. We have the storage material itself is a pellet material, which consists of 85% of recycled material coming from the steel slag or glass slag. We tested it on several cycles, which are equivalent to a lifetime of 40 years, heating it up from ambient temperature up to 1200 degrees without any damages or any impact. And our material has a very high energy density, and we are using a patented system in our storage solution. So how does the storage cycle works in the storage itself? You see in the middle the storage. When it is charged, hot air is coming from the left to the right hand side. It's going through the packed bed of our pellet material, as I just have described it. The hot air is giving the energy to the pellet material and is heating up the pelleting material during charging. During storing, just the energy is kept in our storage system for related required time, which is possible up to 2 weeks. And when we look to the discharge process, again, with cold air, we have a flow of cold air through the heat storage system. That means the heat then is transferred from the storage pellet into the air and serves on the downstream side with related temperature for the downstream application. So this is just a principle, and with this principle we can work on several applications. First I'm introducing is a net zero heat application. This means when we will use renewable power, either wind power or solar power, via so-called power to heat system in order to heat up our storage. This power to heat system, what you can see here, it is like sometimes you can say it's an industrial hair dryer, but going up to temperatures 800 to 1000 degrees Celsius and available meanwhile in the megawatt scale. So up to 5 megawatt, we have a project already under execution. That means by this power to heat system, which is a electric air resistant heater, we can make use out of green power, also can benefit from fluctuating power prices, for example, in order to tap energy in our storage system and then give it on a continuous discharge on the downstream application. So the advantage is that we can buy the power when it is cheap, because renewable power usually is cheap, or when it is running via energy via the stock market. Also, there are periods a day when the power prices are low or even negative. By applying this technology, we are preventing curtailment. It is serving for grid relief, and we can decarbonize industrial processes up to 1000 degrees, and by this replace fossil fuels. And it is more or less applicable in all industries which are requiring process heat. A major project we have is with PepsiCo. In this project, it is dealing with Lay's potato chip. So the idea is to skip a 22 megawatt gas boiler, which is required to heat up thermal oil. The thermal oil is heating up frying oil in order to produce the potato chips. And the idea is to skip the gas consumption and do it via this electricity. So the idea is to make use out of the low electricity prices. And in this project, we are realizing the largest high temperature heat storage project which is under realization up to now, which consists of in total 5 units with a gross capacity of about 150 megawatt hour gross capacity. And 2 of those 5 units we are delivering by end of this year to the project in Netherlands. And when at the end of the day, all 5 modules will be installed, 98% of the emissions will be avoided, and the client is in the position to buy green-made, fossil-free made potato chips. So this is a very interesting project to tap green energy on low-cost price in order to produce a green product at the end of the day. The other way is the waste heat recycling. And in this case, we are feeding our storage with waste heat, either from the glass or steel industry, where we do have a very high temperature level. We have to see if we have to clean the flue gases or if we can take it directly. And by this, we are reducing the need of primary energy because the waste heat can be used for another process. We are avoiding emissions. It's also cost saving. And yeah, it's a very good idea also for industries where they want to get rid of their high temperature flue gas energy without just leaving it to the atmosphere, but to make use out of it and make it use in other application. Also, one application could be a mobile one to bring the heat from A to B. The projects we have here in the waste heat is like our first reference project we built in 2019. It's in the ceramic industry. It's a ceramic grinder wheel production where from the oven we take the waste heat of a batch process, put it into our storage and use the energy in the storage for the next heating up of the batch process. Another project is within the steel industry with Tata Steel in India, where we take the waste heat from the sinter plant cooling in order to heat up process water. This also is under realization with local partners in India for the time. And the last one is a project from the European Innovation Council, which we got supported, is where we are using the cleaned converter gas from the steel industry. We take this cleaned converter gas, put it in an adiabatic combustion chamber, combust it at 1200 degrees and bring it in a container, which also can be a mobile one, and bring it from A to B and make use out of this heat at another location. This is the mobile heat I just talked about. So this is a new business model, meaning we are decoupling not only time-wise, but also location-wise. And in one container, depending from the circumstances around, we can store up to 4 megawatt hours. Within a truck on the street, we have a limitation on the weight, which we need to consider, but you also could scale it up bigger with a fleet of trucks or with a train. And the first pilot we also have up and running since 2020. It's just a quite small one, but this is taking the waste heat from a biogas combustion engine. We are taking the exhaust gas temperature of 430 degrees, put it into the storage and use it for heating office building. The last slide is a district heating solution, which also can benefit from the multifunctionality and the flexibility from our system, so we can use different sources in order to store the energy in our storage system and serve it for the district heating or quarter or shopping mall heating. We can make it as a cheap solution, cost saving, decarbonizing this heating. And what also is a very interesting thing is that especially with the mobile application, you can establish in a very early stage a so-called 2-point grid, which supports the acquisition of new clients, because already you can serve with the heat to related new areas, new clients, which at a later stage then will get connected by the pipework. Yeah, that's it from my side. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Christian, for your presentation. Does anyone have questions? All right, I think it's time for a quick Q&A. If you have any questions or comments for today's speaker or about the Global Contact Program, I invite you to activate your mic or type down your questions in the chat. Also, if you wish to share any insights or comments, please do so. So a big thanks to today's guests, Brendan from Elsdon and Tayo couldn't make it, but Brendan and Hamad from Elsdon for presentation, and also special thanks for to all the startups for presentation as well. We have one more events coming soon. Our next online innovation session will take place in September and will be focused on digital construction. We will share more information about these next sessions very, very soon. So thanks to everyone who turned in today's session, and we hope to hear from you very soon. See you on September for our next innovation session, and have a great summer. Thanks again.